When I was a senior in college, I was taking a speech class just like the one you are sitting in now. I was sitting in class with these three men, Ryan, Kyler, and Joseph. And I'm Kristen. Learning how to give fantastic speeches. Today my team is going to inform you about a commencement address done at Boston University in 2007. The speech was called A Force to Change the World, talking about the film industry and the impact on our lives. Frederick Hunsberry's thesis was, I want to talk to you about movies, about the power of movies and delivering messages through film, the combination of image and sound. We all enjoy the entertainment value of a movie, but I don't think that there is a true realization of the imprint that movies have on people's views of the world around us. This thesis was not typically placed at the beginning of the speech. It was well after the introduction, but this was the moment when he really got into what he was going to be talking about, the film industry. His introduction is exceedingly typical for a keynote speech at a commencement ceremony. Right away, he addresses the family and friends of the graduate, the professors, and finally the graduates themselves. He then moves into what a commencement ceremony is and makes light of the fact that there's not really anything he can say that hasn't been said at the thousands of other commencement ceremonies occurring right now. Overall, his introduction is very similar to what most speeches are when given at graduations. Hunsberry's outline structure is textbook. He gives an introduction, a thesis, starts talking about the meat of his speech, building up to a resolution, and then a final challenge to the graduates themselves, which was ultimately to follow their passions. His flow is fantastic and also very normal for a graduation speech. Hunsberry's speech may be typical of any other graduation speech, as I've said a lot, but the meat of this speech is both inspiring and beautiful. Thank you. Here's Kyler to talk about ethicals.
Mr. Frederick Hunsberry uses the ethical points very clearly in his commencement speech. For explanation, Hunsberry summed up the genre of commencement speeches by reference to a quote by Jerry Trudeau that states, "Commencement speeches were invented largely in the belief that outgoing college students should never be released into the world until they have been properly sedated." Although Trudeau does not define a commencement speech, he does sum up the general idea of it. By using this quote, we gain a better knowledge of what Hunsberry's intentions are for his speech. When it came to testimony, Fred used a quote by one of his graduation speakers and legendary Boston Celtics coach, Red Auerbach, that says, "I believe that if a passer was communicating properly, the receiver would get the message and be at the right place at the right time to catch the ball." The use of this quote shows us the importance of communication from Frederick Hunsberry's vision. A little bit of humor is used in Frederick's speech to keep the audience on their toes when he comments, "Thinking back to my graduation, I confess that I don't even remember who the commencement speaker was, much less what the speech was about. How ironic that a man giving a commencement speech cannot even recall his own commencement speaker." Hunsberry uses many illustrations in his speech when he talks about some of the many great movies produced by Paramount Studios. From Flags of Our Fathers to Saving Private Ryan to Letters of Iwo Jima, he tries to point out how movies convey ideas, emotions, and artistic expressions with greater power and range than any other form of entertainment. And that is why he loves his job and pushes the other graduates to strive for that perfect job as well. Compare and contrast finds its way into the speech when Hunsberry says, "Some see our movies as a mirror of our culture, society, and daily life. They are more like a prism through which to view the past, the present, and the visions of the future." He uses a metaphor for movies when he draws a comparison to the prism through which we view the past, present, and future. Frederick Hunsberry alludes to a commencement speech by Robert De Niro that in fact is only 19 words long. "This is an honor for me, but it is your day. And as they say in theater, break a leg." De Niro clearly wins the prize for clarity and brevity. Hunsberry uses this quote in slash speech not only to bring humor, but to also remind the graduates of their importance. Lastly, Hunsberry uses legitimate stats in his speech to show the economic importance of movies. He recalls last year worldwide box office revenues in excess of $100 billion. By use of these statistics, Hunsberry shows the audience the importance of movies not only economically, but socially and for our culture. Robert Hunsberry successfully uses the ethical to put together a great speech that revolves around the power of movies and to send off the Boston University graduates on a notion to work for a purpose. Let's go to Joe on powerful prose.
In Frederick Hunsberry's speech, he uses a lot of vital, powerful prose that makes his speech more effective and meaningful. He uses alliterations, allusions, anaphora, humor, parallelism, simile, and many more. Since this speech is about how movies are a big impact on today's society, he alludes to a lot of different types of movies. For example, he will be talking about past wars and how they how they impacted today's society. For example, Saving Private Ryan and Flags of Our Fathers. Then switches to movies like The Blood Diamond and shows how our country is economically. At the end of this speech, he will start to close it off by using an anaphora in a very strong way. He starts to say multiple times, I see movies are doing this to affect today's society and not this. At the end of the speech, he makes a joke by referring back to a humorous part at the beginning of the speech. This makes it where the audience remembers the beginning and it stands out. Overall, I think the speech was very well presented and written. It keeps the audience interested, made it easy to understand, made it more effective and powerful, and was more enjoyable. Let's go to Ryan now.
The purpose of an invisible thesis is to A. Inform, B. Persuade, and C. Entertain. I want my audience to know blank. This is the goal that the speaker wants his audience to retain after leaving the ceremony. Information on blank and blank. This is where the speaker includes the information that he has spoken on to help A, B, or C, to help inform my audience about this. What is the invisible thesis in this? The ceremony we are sharing today is called the commencement because it marks the beginning of a new phase in the journey through life. Commencement speakers are expected to offer sage advice about how achieving happiness and success on that journey. How is this invisible thesis? The author wants to inform the audience on why they're at this ceremony. My invisible thesis for this speech. Information on the ceremony and why they're here will help my audience know the importance of achieving happiness and success in their life. Okay, improvements of the speech. I feel as if the author needs to stay on track a little more. In the intro, it's a little sketchy because he bounces around from why they're at the speech to a bunch of other non-important information and then bounces back to the speech. So I just think if he were to stay on track a little bit more, then make the speech go a lot smoother for listeners. And then better transition sentences would also help the speaker because his transition sentences that I found, they were getting a little boring because they were just so repetitive, same thing over and over. So if he were to clean that up, then it'd be more pleasing to the ear to hear what he has to say. Thank you.